Now, the main political parties are in the grip of change, with the big three, the APC, the PDP and Labour, and we should also now add a fourth, the ADC, all searching for a new lease of life as they prepare for the titanic duel of 2027. Today, the ruling APC settled on a new consensus national chairman, Professor Nentawe Yilwatda, even as the party faces the need to foster fresh perspectives and a renewed vision. The PDP is, of course, being pulled in every direction, forced to both keep the peace within and to find a way to plug the growing exodus gaps. And Labour battling to keep its divided leadership together. And the ADC, well, we don't really know, do we? But each party in its own way is exploring new opportunities, but still feeling disconnected and uninspiring. So given the kind of low-grade, self-serving, self-absorbed political squatters that we see across the spectrum, can they ever find that compass of responsible leadership that will create trust, innovation, honor, value, and vision for Nigeria? Or are we, in a manner of speaking, stuck in the mud?
Let me express my profound gratitude to God and the leadership of the party, from the President to the governors and the National Assembly members and all members of NEC, for reposing this big burden and trust also in me to lead the party at this junction. Let me thank you also for picking me among millions of members of this party, and the party will see me good enough and responsible enough to take this party to the next level. I do not take this mandate for granted. I want to accept it with gratitude and with my full heart and full mind to work together with you to build the party, knowing that all of us here are the mechanics of the party, and the party is our vehicle, and we'll fix it and move it to our destination of choice.
That's Professor Yilwatda there, who was today endorsed as the new national chairman of the ruling APC party. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Professor Udenta, Distinguished Fellow of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought and founding National Secretary of the Alliance for Democracy. Prof, good to see you.
Just we're back at it again.
I'm afraid we are.
Good.
I mean, it's the rainy season in Nigeria, as somebody said, and the country's soaked with water, but the political climate is affected by a different kind of downpour. All the parties, let's start with the APC, a national chairman, Nentawe Yilwatda, endorsed today. What's your assessment?
It's an important piece of news because that endorsement occurred on the eye of the ruling political party, the establishment party in the country today, the party of the president and the National Assembly and so on. Beyond that, you can find that the coronation, that's exactly what it is lackluster in its symbolism, because it's almost like we're witnessing around the president an emerging cult of personality, which you find in Asian authoritarian regimes. That sense that the leader is all-seeing, omnipotent, omniscient. It can pluck an obscure, anonymous being and elevate such a character to high heavens, like a Olympian height.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I was going to ask you next, but you started answering it. So let me kind of, embellish or push you in that continued direction. I was going to ask you, do you have any insights about how he's got the job? Because there are a lot of people who were eyeing that position.
I wouldn't know, but I heard that from a little bit, as a scholar and a student of history and Nigerian politics, I went to dig a little bit into him. He was a national commission of INEC And one of the stories is that he was very crucial in a number of the states. Listed about 5 or 7 states, he superintended as a national commissioner of INEC, an umpire that should be above board, independent, objective, and impartial. Had somebody deeply embedded in the APC as a national commissioner. Today is the national chairman, carefully chosen by the curated by the president in his high moment of imperial majestic rule to be the chairman of his party. So that's not important political news, even though it is important to the extent that the party is now aware that it must rearrange its own internal dynamics as we get ready for 2027. For example, we had a lot of conversations earlier about the diminishing of the office of the vice president, the movement we can see somewhere in the north where suddenly the recalibration of the office of the chairman to, for me, solidify and lend more concrete coherence to that imperial, court of personality we are building around the president, which is anathema to genuine democratic contestation within the APC. I don't know who else wanted the job. I don't know who else they could have looked at. But once the hammer fell somewhere, everybody scampered for safety. They were Ganduje, pled sickness and ill health, and fled into oblivion. Well, now they've opened the space for this new fellow, who are going to begin to learn how to even spell his name, increasingly and pronounce it very well, to become their chairman.
Well, he says his job is to unite the party. How challenging will that be, especially at a time when we see all these defectors crossing over and potentially displacing people who are already in the party?
You see, 2 years to this end of the transition, roughly 2 years or less than 2 years, Charles, I had a conversation with you here that the president and his team panicked. They jumped the gun. That's why they have now started pouring the rain, as you said. Not the physical element of the rain, but the political rain is pouring. The downpour is heavy. It's like a deluge because you jumped the gun. You jumped the gun in the sense that what you're doing now is what you should be doing in a year's time. These characters from these other parties who are defecting as Normans are not genuine defectors. Trust me today. There will be a lot of counter-defections between now and end of next year. Because the defection is the product of intense pressure. Intense excruciating pressure. Not just political pressure, material pressure, economic pressure, pressure of within EFCC and ICPs and all manners of state apparatuses before somebody. So if you take a jump in order to avoid that pressure, it doesn't mean their heart is there. But you're correct to say, if you are eyeing something, already a senator, you decamp from one party to another. If there is no senatorial candidate, there's no senator in that particular constituency where they're decamping to, somebody's already eyeing that seat in the next time around. So all manners of confusion within the party, but for him to talk about uniting the party that we've been told repeatedly
is already
united. There's only the PDP and the rest of them that are searching for their soul, searching for their direction.
You mentioned the PDP. What's your assessment of what's happening in the party? In the last couple of days, we've not only seen them looking like they're coming together, but also at the same time seeing them riven by new defections. I mean, they've managed to put a brave face on things. They've set a new date for their national convention. Are you impressed or not?
Charles, we had conversations at this table. One I recall when I told you, it is the obligation, sacred responsibility of patriotic Nigerians to see to the survival of the PDP. That the party is like a legacy, political institution of this republic. My party allies with Democrats, now defunct with APP as then called, be the other legacy parties. Be the only one standing now. The idea and practice of multi-party democracy in a liberal format, we suffer sorry, we pay a painful, painful suffering if we don't have a PDP standing. So it's part of the what's around the party. We need that party to be alive and well. Today that party is fairly alive and well. That's the point I made here earlier. The second point I made, when you express fear.
Well, maybe alive.
Yes, alive. Well, I will tell you why it is well. When you talked about, is it possible that people expressing fear and doubt, given the fragmentation, given the polarization, as we march into 2027, I told you there's no sense of alarm. There is time. Time is abundant because the president panicked, so he's actually jumping the gun. The PDP set a convention in November. They didn't set it in August. They are aware that between now and end of the year, parties must get the infrastructure together, the coherent organization together. They must get their integers that make the equation work together. They must ensure that from the village level, the ward level, to the local level, to the state and the national, the party is articulated as a coherent force. That's why they chose November. In the past 2 days, he just saw the resolution, but a series of undercurrents of meetings and conversations and negotiations that preceded that. The first was a meeting of the Governors Forum. It took place at the lodge of the Bauchi State Governor, who is the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State. He hosted his fellow governor, said, what is the correct path for the party to adopt to navigate out of this cloud that is looming, or have been looming for a long time, and then bet this neck that INEC will observe. After that, the stakeholders meeting occurred at NAF Center, where the founders of the party, the likes of Jim Mobodo, the likes of Jerry Ghana, and the rest of them, Babangida and you all showed up to say, we are PDP, we are the founders of this party, the owners of the party, owners of the democratic land. Then the meeting of the caucus of the party, held again at the Governor's Lodge of the Bauchi State government, hosted by the governor of Bauchi State, and said, these are the things we should expect to happen on the neck. We are going to put our feet down, and they delivered on it. So the fact is that INEC observed the neck. That means INEC accepted the communication from the National Chairman Damagu and the National Secretary Anyango, putting to rest now at the highest level of the party leadership. The issue of its leadership coherence.
Right. Does
that is key.
Suggest that one of the people who's seen as a spoiler, Nyesom Wike, is also on board? I
don't know about that. I'm talking about the party. We are dealing with party as an infrastructure, as an organism. The party is composed of entities. The NEC, the NWC, the Governors Forum, the BOT, and the caucus. That's what I'm interested in, not individuals. So if you have a successful NEC monitored by INEC, you find the date and the space or location chosen for the convention. You find the tireless work of party leaders, the chairman of the party, the chairman of the Governors Forum, and other critical stakeholders who have sacrificed all. The fierce passion of these leaders is what is holding the party. And maybe the goodwill of Nigerian people. Left for the APC and the president and the presidency, the implosion of the PDP is God sent to them. Maybe not God sent to them, maybe some other force sent to them. In the sense that he can talk about ADC. He can talk about any other party. He can talk about the infrastructure of these other formations. You have big names in ADC, for example, but you don't have the infrastructure that governs.
Right.
So if you build that infrastructure by the past 27 years or 28 years, it's difficult to dismantle. So what you need is to do what? Navigate out of the dark shadows of the snares and obstacles strewn on their path. They've done that remarkably well. What they need now to do is to use the next 2 or 3 months to rally the troops.
Right. Well, let's move on from the PDP. I mean, I'll come to the ADC in a minute. Hopefully we'll have time for that. But we've seen in the Labour Party, Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, the former vice presidential candidate, attending a factional NEC meeting led by Julius Abure. Mr. Baba Ahmed says he's trying to reconcile the party and would like to bring Peter Obi back into the fold. Lots of rumors and reports swirling around his intention. I mean, Baba Ahmed. But he said on this program a couple of days ago that his intention is simply to reconcile everyone. What's your assessment?
The 2 things I can say. One is a matter of personal experience. One is a much more general, dictum in terms of relationship people strike in a political formation like ours. Maybe I begin with that. We hear of permanent interest and no permanent enmity. Yet actually there's interviews between the general and the specific. I had a conversation many, many years ago with a leading force in fixing things in Nigerian politics. I had issues with the then President Jonathan, and I met this leader who is close to him. And you know what he told me? Udenta, we don't have any issue with you concerning land, money, and women. That's what your father will tell you. If there's no woman involved in a quarrel between a man, and no money involved and no land involved, they have no quarrel. So in a sense, if in Labour Party, you don't have an issue of a man, of a woman, with money and land involved in their quarrel, Nothing stopped that Ahmed from talking to whoever he wanted to talk to. But
Right.
they try to put themselves together and see whether they can rebuild the ranks of the party to be a standing party. That is their choice, their prerogative as leaders of the party around election 2023. How far that we go is dependent on how genuine that intent is, and most crucially, the faction is talking to, whether they are deep-rooted within the party institutional framework, or whether their soul is actually out
Yeah,
somewhere
but
else.
some people have suggested that he's going in there because Peter Obi is kind of searching further afield. I mean, the PDP have sat where you're sitting and said, we would love to have Peter Obi back. You know, we're really trying to get him back.
You know, I'm going to hold this president and his team responsible for this kind of language we're using in discussion. You know why? The primary election, if I'm wrong, fact check me later when INEC releases the timetable, is a year away. 11 months, 12 months ahead of us. So what platform are you searching for? There's a lot of time to search for platforms and decide where you're going to be. There's no panic in this business. If P2B is going to be in PDP, by the time the party finish the convention, ready these ranks, mobilize his troops, he'll be there. If the Labour Party is going to reform itself, because the big entity for him to use, anybody to use, well, we know in the fullness of time. If APC will implode on the basis of its stupendous weight and aggressive appetite, last time we talked about gluttony, you know, so on, and the flatulence, you know, of the party, you know, we're going to know. If you're going to pick and choose between whoever to be a chairman from one obscure individual to another,
Okay, let's try
flying.
and gallop through things in the time that we've got left. Where does all this leave the ADC? I mean, they seem a bit quiet at the moment. The new ADC coalition.
Let me start from the PDP to the ADC. There's an intermix there. I've said here, and I stand to be corrected, there are three forces at work in PDP. One, those who are those canvassing and agitating for strategic autonomy of the party. That autonomy of position, the party, that wing of the party led by the governor of Bauchi State, the chairman of the party, critical stakeholder Jerry Gada and the rest of them say, this party is our own, as an institution, independent of anybody else. There's a faction of the party, or tendency within the party, who would like the party to self-dissolve to benefit Bola Tinubu as the president in 2027. Some individuals are around. Those they are now weakening as a force, being diminished rapidly by the patriotic element within the party. There's a third element of those who do not want the party to survive very well because they want to move somewhere else, not to APC. Those are the elements you find in ADC now. That wing of the party that is resistant to the party, ability to regenerate and reform and recreate itself, are those there. And when you move as an individual, selves, not as organizational structure as self. You move as a person with a name, but you don't move with entity, with a structure which is already on ground. If you take Adama, we take Bauchi, take Plateau, take Taraba, this is take control by the PDP. The structure is completely intact. Whoever is moving from any of those stakes there is moving as a person. You have to now start building the new infrastructure, renting new office, recruiting new hands from the ward level upwards. It's a difficult task. Maybe that's what they're doing, I don't know. But they like the people in the PDP, the leaders of the party, when the governor of Bauchi State spoke, he was passionate to say, it's a home for all. We have a tendency of welcoming back returnees. We have a large heart that when they miscalculate, they are misguided in their nomadic adventure. A time will come when they will come back and we embrace them and forgive. Even Babangida Ali will say, we dare not bring people back who want to soil the image of the party. These are levels of contestations in fighting the party. So ADC may have its hands full for now in grappling with the teething problems of raising such a new infrastructure.
Well, I mean, we've got like 2 minutes left. Overall, as you look at the APC, the PDP, Labour, and the ADC, and given the kind of low-grade, self-serving, self-absorbed political squatters that you see, or that we see, or that Nigerians see across the political spectrum, what's your prognosis going forward?
My prognosis is that incrementally from now to 2027, APC will be diminished, radically diminished somewhere down the line. Number two, Labour Party may find it difficult to achieve that sense of coherence anymore. If PDP navigates out of the convention in November, rebuilds its ranks, and a new brand leadership, this is the party to watch. And the party, I think, if it zones properly, strategically zones properly for the presidency, that's the party to beat.
Okay. On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. It's always brilliant getting your insights and your hindsight and your foresight. Professor Udenta, of course, a distinguished fellow at the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought and founding National Secretary of the Alliance for Democracy. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be with you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.